I certainly don't expect Andy Reid to watch or listen to this show. And really, frankly, most of the time, I don't want Andy Reid to watch or listen to this show. But if there was ever a day, today should be the one. Because if you're watching on video right now, you can see what Andy Reid's missing. It's Nate Taylor in a hotel room with a well-made bed. Welcome to Only Weird Games.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Joshua Brisco, Seth Keysor, and the immaculately made bed of one Nate Taylor live from Indianapolis. Nate, bullying works, I guess. Has Andy personally reached out yet to confirm that bed is up to his standards?
Looking out of my gorgeous corner window here in just my second home, Indianapolis, I can see Lucas Oil Stadium from my hotel room, top floor. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Andy Reid's probably in there watching some drills. So I'm sure someone's going to inform him sooner rather than later. But I just figured this would be a perfect perfect book ending to the last time I'm going to be traveling for quite a while in relation to this job. And doesn't she look pretty? Doesn't she look so pretty? And you know what? I don't want to take all the credit, but I will. This is all me. I have not.
Is it really?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I don't know what's up with these follow-up questions, officer. Like, come on, you can't let the man have a moment.
Can you at the end of the show, Nate? Can you just plan on full belly flopping as the final act on video today? Because I think that'd be.
If people are super chatting for this, I guess I will prostitute my body on a bed on camera, fully clothed though, fully clothed.
Well, that depends on the size of the super chat.
It really does. I'll take off a layer. I'll take off a layer here and there. It goes to the KCSN Foundation.
Hey, Seth, we gotta
underneath here.
Seth, we got to start high and then get them to climb from there.
Right.
So
that's why I never made any money as a male prostitute, among other reasons.
You also showed everybody your feet like for free a couple weeks ago. I mean,
you really did, yeah. So look, guys, it's my last night of the 2024 NFL Combine. Yes, I am. They're gonna let me go home. But thank you, TS Redemption. This is the redemption story you wanted out of the 2023-2024 times ours.
Boy, I wish that was the name of the show. So we got to get right into it today because there is a ton of stuff that has happened since Tuesday.
Correct.
It is February 29th, and there are guys no longer on the team. There are guys who may no longer be on the team. There are guys who may be on the team for years to come. There's a coach who may or may not be on the team. And Clark Hunt, in one of the most incredible, not on purpose, but one of the most incredible acts of timing ever recorded in human history, had the funniest Wednesday of all time in my book. And I think we're ahead of the curve a little bit talking about cash spending on Tuesday, but here we stand. Now, let's go in the order that has been laid out in our beautiful rundown that you can see if you watch the show live or after the fact, of course, on the KCSN socials and particularly on the YouTube, where you can comment along throughout the show. If you're a podcast listener, tell you that we're going to start with Dave Merritt because, Nate, I don't know what the level of seriousness is here, but the Niners have been going through defensive coordinator interviews for a while since the Chiefs convinced Kyle Shanahan to fire Steve Wilkes for like blitzing one more time than he should have. I don't know. Wasn't that bad of a performance, but here we are anyway. So Dave Merritt interviews for that Niners defensive coordinator job. What's the latest on that? What do you know? And how big is the danger of Dave Merritt leaving, considering, as we talked about back during the season, that he was planning on being in Kansas City for at least another year, waiting for his kids to grow up and continue playing football in the area?
Correct. So as I paint the first picture, the first vignette of the last 3 days, because honestly, kids, from a calendar standpoint, the moment we stopped recording on Tuesday was when the combine shot off like a freaking rocket. So last night, as people are sort of exiting out of, I'm gonna just call it Banker's Life Fieldhouse, Pacers, Pelicans. Zion played, Pacers won. Hey, let's go to Harry and Izzy's. Let's get that shrimp cocktail. You have to do it. It is just such a
More
great...
places have shrimp cocktail in Indy. I thought it was just a St. Elmo's thing.
St. Elmo's and Harry and Izzy's are owned by the same company group, so they offer it as well. It's actually the easier place to get the shrimp cocktail than St. Elmo's, because man, they're in there deep. Anyway, having a little shrimp cocktail steak with my boys. I didn't see him, y'all. I didn't see him. Okay, so this is the complete opposite of week 2 in Jacksonville, where I got him to turn over from the shoulder, and of course I said, how good is Trent McDuffie, dog? This time I can just hear his voice, and then I do the turn, and I go, no, there's no bleeping way Dave Merritt wants to talk to me in this restaurant. Okay, there are prospects, there are agents. Nicole Lynn is right over there. You want to talk to her real quick? I can point you in that direction. Anyway, what's up, man? He still has DBs on 3. Loves the hoodie. And then we get to talking. How we doing? How you feeling? I'm going to just have this. Then I'm going to go get a nice cigar on. Then I'm going to go boom, boom, boom. Like, there's just so many. Everybody's itinerary is so different. Seth, I said, how did it go? And Dave knew exactly what I was talking about. And he was like, we talked for about an hour, and we got a lot more to talk about tomorrow, i.e. being today, kids. Dave Merritt is going through it right now. Maybe not right now, but today with Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan has figured something out. Dave Merritt be getting them dudes to play well, don't he?
Sure does.
And Dave Merritt knows something that maybe Kyle Shanahan doesn't know, because, that whole Super Bowl thing. So you can't hire Steve Spagnuolo. And even though Dave Merritt just got a nice bump, and as I've told you before, every defensive assistant basically is on a 2-year contract now. So the 2024-2025 season, in essence. He's like, we didn't come up from the same background. I'm more of like, I came up kind of the same way Wilkes came up. He said that out loud in a public place. I came up. The
man that just got thrown under the bus? That guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that guy.
Don't do it, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, that guy. So I've come up the Steve Wilkes kind of way. And look, he has the confidence that he knows at some point he will really get an opportunity to be a defensive coordinator. It may be sooner rather than later. And he's like, it's interesting as to like why he wants to talk to me. We are so late into the process. Kids, I cannot stress enough.
Yeah.
The fact that the 49ers are interviewing coordinators during the combine is very abnormal. I've never seen it done.
Red flag.
For a contending team. Not like we went through the whole lengthy process to get a coach, and, we're at the end of the cycle, so not everybody's like super duper available like they would be in, mid to late December. No, it's leap day, and they don't have a defensive coordinator. And so what could Kyle Shanahan want to find out? And that has been the discussion I've had with numerous people today. What could Kyle Shanahan want to know from Dave Merritt?
Don't do it, Dave. You cannot let that hang out with me. I don't know what you're about to say, but Dave can't do this because his kids, they're in school. And do I know them or how old they are? No. And is it entirely disingenuous of me to tell another father how to parent his kids? Yes. That said, I can say this with a lot of confidence. They'll never recover from this. Not moving from Kansas City to San Francisco. I've worked in child protection for a long time, guys.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you know what? No, I can't.
No. Let's see
Yeah,
it. Let's see the evidence.
And his his eldest. I think there's a younger. You can fact check me on this, Nate. I believe that there's I believe that not the eldest, but the eldest quote kid is like a highly touted recruit, and I think there's a younger one
on the way
in the mix also.
There's
But
probably not even high school football in.
I've heard there's pretty good.
That's right.
I've heard there's pretty good football in California.
Nah, not really. And they're gonna forget he exists if he changes high schools. Let me ask you this, Seth. In all seriousness here, as I welcome to my new catchphrase, welcome to In All Seriousness with Joshua Brisco, a show within only weird games when I try to get Seth and Nate to not talk about feet or child protective services. Why Seth? Hey Seth, just a defensive backs coach, right? What's the big deal?
We can't say with absolute certainty the reason why the Chiefs are better positioned in the defensive back room than everyone else in the league. What we can say is that they just grow on trees. You know how they say corners don't grow on trees? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew that, but they say that, among other things. They do in Kansas City. They just Rashad Fenton was competent
good.
in Kansas
City. He was
City.
good.
Good even. And then he left, and it was like, okay. And then, like, Charvarius Ward, they let him walk, and I was like, I don't know, he's pretty good, guys, and it wasn't like they broke the bank. And then they turned za'darius Sneed, who played safety largely in college, although he didn't a little earlier. Like, he turned him into a really good corner. Trent McDuffie went from an unbelievable prospect to an even better pro than he was in college in his second year. You've got guys like Josh Williams and Jalen Watson where it's like, look at the raw clay here.
Traitsy. He's very traitsy.
Traits. And Merritt is the Potter. Now, how sacrilegious am I willing to get here? Not very much more so than that. But they just keep developing guys, and that's got to stem back to the defensive backs coach. Like one or two guys, you'd be like, wow, how lucky did they get? And yes, Spags is really good at getting guys set up in his system. But there's a reason why veterans come in like Mike Edwards and plays better here than he did anywhere else. And he was pretty decent in Tampa. But like they pick up the system so quickly. Spags' system is not easy. There's a lot of stuff you do on the back end. Like, you think it's easy to show, buzz and then go into cover 6 post snap? No one else has to do that. That's not even one of their calls, what I just said, because no one knows what they're doing except guys that play for Dave Merritt. And I think
they want to know things when all they've been doing is lining up in cover 3 and dropping back into stupid zones that everybody knows that they're in. Or
do the numbers get bigger beyond 3? What?
No. What do you mean cover 4? Huh? What? I mean, I guess we could drop 4 back. Oh no, they've just played a lot of simplified coverages with some Steve Wilkes engage 8 action, and there's a wider variety available. So maybe Seth got to my point. What does Kyle Shanahan want to know from Dave Merritt? Even if he didn't offer him the job, but the fact that Dave Merritt right now is a more attractive potential significant other at the bar than Brandon Staley tells you where we're headed.
Let's spin that straight into the next thing here, because there are legit 6 or 7 real topics that we could spend much longer on. And for this ties directly into me on the latest with za'darius Sneed. That entire cornerbacks growing on trees and the development process that we've seen this Chiefs team have. If you know that process is something that you can largely trust for Dave Merritt and Spags in particular. Also, I will mention that I didn't realize Sam Madison was a part of the Dolphins defensive coaching staff culling or whatever when they made their changes. So maybe and also Nate, I'm sorry, I cannot remember for the life of me how to pronounce the last name of the assistant defensive coach who retired this offseason, according to Andy Reid. Ken
Flagel.
I always want to add a syllable and make him Flagole, I think. But I believe that's the first coach departure the Chiefs have had all offseason. So they would theoretically be able to move somebody into that spot if they wanted to bring back Sam Madison or somebody else, whatever. All that to say, all of that feels very intertwined to me. So, Nate, what is the latest? The tag, there was a report that the Chiefs were actively tagging za'darius Sneed yesterday. It didn't happen on the transaction report, but everyone seems to agree that's where it's headed. And we talked about it some on Tuesday that he's able to talk to teams about compensation and a potential trade if the Chiefs tag him and then move him. What's the latest with Sneed and that status? And then Seth, I'm curious how the Dave Merritt questions and the za'darius Sneed stuff all coincides for you.
So here's where we are. za'darius Sneed more than likely is going to get franchise tagged. They have until Tuesday, I believe at 3:00 Central Time. I will double check that here. But, there is multi-layers to everything that's going on, and hopefully we can connect the dots as best we can. But the way this is all working is, it's basically March 5th, Tuesday, at 3 p.m. Central. That's the deadline. Now, as I've sort of reported before, and I've been able to sort of further report it, ask me the percentage, Josh.
What's the percentage chance that za'darius Sneed gets traded before the draft?
High 70s. And the way it's moving, you might want to try to execute this before free agency starts, because of course once you tag that player, that 19, let me make sure I get the numbers right. There's a lot of numbers. That 19,
it's just under 20
million. Yeah, the 19.8 million. Once you place that on za'darius, that means you have to honor that money on your salary cap sheet, even if most people know you probably not going to operate like that once the training camp, draft, free agency, once all that starts. But you got to honor it because it's technically on the books. Now, once you trade that away, once you trade the player with the franchise tag, that comes off your books. So I know there's been some discussion right now about like, hey, the Chiefs have like $9 million in cap space. Then, we're going to talk about Marquez Valdes-Scantling to some degree, like he gets released. That gives you basically another $10 million. Before you make any other moves on the roster, if you were to trade za'darius Sneed on the franchise tag before March 13th, which is the start of free agency, then there's another $19.8 million that's available to be used to help build up other parts of the roster. So it is moving in a very fast manner that za'darius Sneed is probably going to get traded. This is in my story that's in The Athletic. It came out momentarily with Diana Rossini doing some additional reporting alongside me. Are we ready for me to read directly from the story?
I am.
Since Tuesday, 6 teams have shown interest in acquiring za'darius Sneed, according to a league source. 6 teams. People are going to ask about compensation. I think the highest.
Hey Nate, what about the compensation?
Hey Zach, Eason. I think the highest they could probably get is a 2nd round pick.
That's Zach Eisen.
It might be
third?
Thanks,
Zach Eisen. Or Eason.
Eisen. Sorry. I see Kyle Coffey saying a 2 and a 5. It depends on how many of these 6 teams are really, how much they further progress or advance in the trade discussions.
Are they interested, or Katz Brothers interested in getting an extension done last year interested?
Seth, I don't. Why you?
I mean, there's levels.
Are they? Sorry, Nate. I'll just clarify. Are they like serious people or like unserious people?
6 teams have shown interest in acquiring za'darius Sneed.
Yeah, but are they like operating like professionals or like clowns?
Are they making requests that are normal, or are they offering like a stick of gum?
See, these guys know that I've told them information that I cannot say publicly because we're going to let some of those things play out, or they just may never see the light of day. But this is I am tickled.
This part, I don't think I know anything more about. I don't think I know any secret L'Jarius Sneed compensation points.
Are they interested, or to quote our commenter D-Mac Wakefield, are we Seth wanting to pay Nick Bolton $18 million interested? I like Nick Bolton, by the way. I have become the poster boy for just a hater. Just a hater.
I'm Seth, and I love all of your favorite players.
So,
despite what my eyes tell me.
Let me lean into the camera. There was someone I talked to today, and L'Jarius Sneed's name got brought up, and he did one of these.
I don't think did Dan Campbell wear glasses?
Does anybody know what that means?
Think that means talk to my GM because I'm begging him to trade for this guy?
So look, the combine is a great place. It's a smorgasbord of ideas, of opinions, of body odor, of perfume, overdrenched cologne from 2 days ago, and
that's just PJ Kissel.
And cocktail sauce that gets in your eye, and you go, God dang it happened again. Horseradish and cocktail sauce in my eye. But yeah, how soon can the trade happen? I don't know, guys. Could it happen before free agency on March 13th? Sure. Could it wait until like maybe a week before the draft, when teams have more of an idea of their draft boards and what pockets they want to sort of pick and sort of identify where prospects could potentially be, as even Brett Veach says, like hot zones, cold zones for certain positions based on team needs, roster needs. Potentially, yes. Could there be an even wilder situation where all of a sudden L'Jarius Sneed goes from being on the tag to like, giving some form of a discount to sign a long-term deal so he can get off the tag, so that it could actually help the team be more cap flexible? Sure, a lot of that depends on Chris Jones to some degree too. But yeah, if they're able to make the trade before free agency, and as I said last episode, if you're making these moves now, and in 2 days you got 6 teams that are identified as potential suitors for L'Jarius Sneed, then the trade could obviously happen sooner rather than later.
And that feels like good news, I think, right, Seth, in terms of 6 teams being involved. And I don't know where you're at now on the compensation side, but with that information, what does that mean to you? Assuming, Nate, legit, you may have no actual way of putting a percentage on this one. Percentage chance L'Jarius Sneed gets traded before the draft, you said 70. What's the percentage chance Dave Merritt's the next defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers?
60-40.
Boom, too high.
If Kyle Shanahan's smart.
Well, so 40-60?
I mean, that's, ladies and gentlemen, that is the comments of previous professional broadcaster Joshua Brisco.
I follow some Niners coverage and Niners fans, and the vitriol I've seen I have publicly said, and I will say again now, if Kyle Shanahan wears out his welcome in San Francisco in about 3 or 4 years, around the same time Andy Reid might actually be thinking about retirement, he'd be my first phone call. I'd have no problem. If Mike McDaniel's not available, he'd be my first phone call. Kyle Shanahan would be my second phone call.
Absolutely.
McDaniel just seems like way more fun.
So for the audio portion of our audience, what I did was I took my glasses off and I darted my eyes in a direction that I'm not looking. So
yes,
that means that things are moving really fast, like over there, like not right here, not right now. Stop asking.
It does seem like they really are moving very quickly with the Sneed stuff in terms of trying to get stuff done, which if I were to choose to read into things,
could that mean, Seth?
To me, that would mean that they want to be a little more active in free agency this year. last year, some of the stuff that was going on with Jones, that they've been pretty upfront about, between just saying and in leaked stuff, they didn't think that they would be that hung up with Jones. They didn't think it would go down the way it did last year. And so they ended up with some flexibility, and man, they knocked the signings they made out of the park, but they also didn't have the flexibility to maybe want to, like, I don't know, address the wide receiver room. I think what I'm reading into it is they want to have some flexibility here. So with Sneed, it's like, hey, extension that works for the team, great, even better. We can't do that. I don't think they want to be hung up with, hey, we don't have flexibility. Especially with the increase in cap, which you and me and everyone listening knows Clark Hunt knew was coming. They can maybe play around a little more if they're willing to up their cash spending, which I know we're going to get into some stuff here on that later. So that to me at least tells me all this conversation about we need more weapons for Pat. I think what they just experienced this last year, putting their eggs in the basket of developmental guys by and large, because they had hopes for MVS, but I think MVS's struggles aren't nearly as pronounced if Tony or Moore work out. So, I mean, if I'm Veach, I look at that and I say, yeah, sure, we'll keep going to the draft for sure. But we also know how long it takes young guys to pick up Andy Reid's offense. And say what you will about MVS's year 2 not being as good as year 1, but he picked up the offense in year 1. Juju Smith-Schuster picked up the offense in year 1. I don't think you can count on even a first-round rookie necessarily picking up Andy Reid's offense in year 1. So if you want to do some movement on there, I think you've got to at least look at a guy, not necessarily a star, because that's if we get to offseason lessons, the lesson was you need a certain level of competency. And
it's not the lesson that I've been wanting to talk about for multiple weeks. Mine's much more like about fan base and like big picture and kind of, but that's okay. I'm sure we'll get to it later in today's show. On to the next here, because these things are all intertwined. You want to free up this money, stay flexible. Chris Jones right now seems also like there's some stuff heating up. Nate has just written about this up on The Athletic. Nate, if you want to prepare to read from your own words again once more, or I can do some of that for you here in a second, because there's a lot here about the Chiefs and Chris Jones. First, Seth, quick Raiders Digest version of why Chris Jones is the place to begin this offseason if you're in Brett Veach's head.
Because he's the best.
Let's take a break.
God dang it. Yes, Tucker's not on it.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
That's a win for me.
Come on. No, it's not. Come on. No, it's not. They said before we get to Chris Jones, Josh, they said it's a green screen.
I'm so glad you are where you are right now. And also, your mic cord is long as hell.
Come on, come over here. Pull up. Do you want to see more groin or do you want to see more calves? What we're gonna do now, kids, is I'm gonna pull get a little closer, and then let's go into. We've done this so many times, friends, and I'm actually gonna pull the camera down. This is you cannot get this content anywhere else. By the way, shout out to Diana Rossini for reporting this story with me. The things me and Diana have done the last 2 days to bring you some news regarding Chris Jones. All I'm saying is you need seasoned reporters. So, as I've said before, kids, the team you root for has Patrick Mahomes. Now, let's go into full-on inhale. Let's lie on our back. Let's really stretch it out. Hopefully, my body isn't a travesty for you all. I know it's a new class, but we are live. The Chiefs are doing everything humanly possible to retain Chris Jones. Josh, you can go over the particulars, but in a more therapeutic manner. Just read it for the audience so that I and everyone else can take a deep breath that they're potentially giving up one of their better defensive players for the reality of retaining their best defensive player.
Let me see if I can go ahead and actually. I'm gonna just.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker, let me know if this works for you here. Hold on, there we go. Is my gain? Am I getting a little louder? Can you hear me a little louder here?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah. That's good.
Soothing.
That's good
Nate
levels.
Nate's currently laying in his bed right now, holding his microphone, giving you that report. And I'll read this excerpt here from theathletic.com, written by Nate Taylor, with an assist from Diana Rossini. Similar to this time last year, Jones wants a contract that will pay him an average annual salary of $30 million, which would make him the league's third highest paid defensive player behind Nick Bosa and Aaron Donald. I'll skip down a paragraph because it's sort of context that most people probably know. The Chiefs will likely have to offer a contract that's more lucrative than what the Pittsburgh Steelers gave outside linebacker TJ Watt in 2021. I add parenthetically before his age 27 season.
Who has no rings?
A 4-year, $112 million extension with $80 million guaranteed for Jones to agree to continue his career with a franchise that selected him with a 2016 second-round pick. Now, Nate, live from your hotel bed, when you say more lucrative, are you talking about those raw numbers? Is that average annual value? What's important to God's favorite agents who are in charge of Chris Jones's livelihood?
Okay, guys, so that was a great relaxed time. Now we're going to get to our stretch here. Okay, so what that means, Josh, is a combination of the two, and how does Brett Veach, Chris Shea, and Andy Reid and Clark Hunt want to structure a deal of 3 to 4 years? Oh, yeah, feel that groin really, really pop. Feel it pop. My back is popping because we haven't gotten enough sleep buys.
I feel like I haven't gotten my groin enough involved in this show. Seth, how's your groin?
So, I'm wearing professional tennis, shorts right now, so I've got clear coverage. Just so everyone knows, right now you are getting, I'm not kidding, the best Chris Jones analysis anywhere in the world from a man laying on his bed. Yep, with a little stretch of the
man. Nate, I never really realized this before, but you've got some really well-built thighs, my friend.
Thank you. Some girls have noticed in the past. There's a time.
Hey, Nate, sorry, Nate. Nate. Hold on. I'm sorry. If you could pause your Chris Jones analysis real quick. Seth, anything you wanted to say to me?
Oh man,
anything you want to say to me, Seth?
Yep.
I've always really
anything maybe over there,
as a friend,
here, yep,
and a person.
This is why you make your bed, because you
really
just
nice
feel
jacket.
so comfortable.
Oh, there it goes.
Warming up in here? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take this jacket
feels like
off.
a moment that got away from us.
Us?
What do you mean? What? You're not comfortable? We did this to get more relaxed.
Sure. And as now the most clothed member of Only Weird Games, I just
which we're all grateful for.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am tastefully dressed right now. Tastefully clothed.
Is this gonna get taken down off YouTube?
We're gonna become a show that people are like, well, I only watch it for the articles. Like, gosh.
Oh, by the way, Diana and I have done a lot of reporting on this. So I think the news here is that the Chiefs have some advantages right now because they are making it very clear to Chris how much they value him, desire him, long for him to be a part of their football team in the 2024, 2025, and potentially 2026 seasons. So, they release Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They're going to convert some of Patrick Mahomes' contract. We all know this. They could do the same with Joe Thuney, maybe give him a year or kick it out a little bit longer in terms of a roster bonus. And, za'darius Sneed is a $19 million trade chip that can give you more cap space and another draft pick for this year that you could spend on, I don't know, a tight end, a linebacker, a guard, a nice guard.
That stretch for me was the most satisfying when you were talking about tight ends. Don't clip that one.
It almost sounds to me like the Chiefs have this urgent need to re-sign Chris Jones, to extend him, if you were, this burning impulse and drive that can't be satisfied any other way. Is that accurate?
They are thrusting towards trying to get a deal done before March 11th, because that, kids, is when you can start to buy a girl a drink at the bar and not get yelled at or screamed or tampering, even though there's a lot of tampering going on where I am.
Sure looks like it.
Sure does. I'm not saying I'm tempted, but I am being tampered with. So guys, you cannot get this anywhere else. I have to. Come on. Diana Rossini is trying to find out how many teams are truly interested in Chris Jones. We will provide more of that to you, perhaps sooner rather than later. There are some teams, Seth, I'm sure you could reach out to and sort of, throw a dart at. You might be onto something. There was one conversation that I cannot say out loud, but these two gentlemen heard it, and the reaction was exactly what I wanted. And Diana, God bless her. Just some teams are really interested. Some teams that you might be surprised by, some that you could clearly tend to expect based on their timeline and their available cap space. But like I said, with the 6 teams available for za'darius in the last 2 days, it's been harder to pin down how many teams are going to want to buy into the discussions of, hey, if he gets a free agency, what can we legitimately offer him? And can it be something not just better than the TJ Watt contract, but is it going to be a comfort level on both ends when Chris Jones has made it very clear he wants to be a Chief? And the Chiefs have done everything to, at least so far, done everything to demonstrate to him that he needs, that they're willing to meet him in a much better negotiation than what occurred all of last season.
Seth, your thoughts?
I think it's really great news that that both sides are behaving in a more professional manner this offseason, trying to get it done. I've officially closed my eyes because I cannot, in good faith. Oh, nope. All that's seared on the inside of my eyelids is Nate. There he is. Thighs and everything.
Can these young girls see under my shirt? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be a little bit.
Shout out to Matt Peterson,
tight,
who comes through with a $10 donation to the KCSN Foundation, which has led to what Nate is currently doing, which is, Nate, lay on the bed and kick your legs back and forth like you're a teenage girl talking on the phone with her friends. And that is absolutely what Nate is doing now. And we got precedent. Nate'll do one trick for $10.
Right now, the song going through my head is "The Boy Is My" between Monica and Brandy. And take me back, Lord. I would have chose Monica, even though Brandy's probably got the better voice. Man, Monica in the 90s was undefeated. The boy is mine. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, if you're watching now, you can see that today's nonsense panel that occasionally shows up in the rundown has just been turned into Nate's Indy Adventures. So there we are. This is a whole nother level. I thought we'd hear about Nate's Indy Adventures. I didn't think we were going to spend so much time in Nate's bed.
Look, then you clearly don't get the show. Because what is this show if not one long attempt for us to get into Nate's bed, if nothing else? The Chris Jones aspect, it's good to hear. It seems as though this seems like the first offseason where they are really legitimately. Nate, you gotta stop looking at me. I can't do this.
You don't have to look back.
Look at me, yes.
Look at his eyes. It's like saying, "Hey, don't look into that."
Quick super chat here from Andrew Lee, $9.99. Trick. He says. So Nate, just do like do a push up or something.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm
on
gonna
a bed
do next,
that's
guys.
tough because you got the springs and everything.
Yeah, don't tell.
So
I'm sure somebody's going to tell Andy about this, which also was not my intentions when the show started. But go on. How does it make you?
My intentions when the show started would be.
Your Honor, that was not my intentions.
I did not. The only thing I was going to say is that it seems like this is the first offseason where they have made kind of a decision. Hey, we want to base our defense around Chris. We've done that 2 years in a row. By letting a guy like Sneed walk, the defense was based around Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, and za'darius Sneed. They're saying, we've got a foundational guy in McDuffie. We want Chris to be our other foundational guy. We're willing to let Sneed walk if, they have to. And so that is my professional analysis of this situation. It seems like they're going to get it done. And that's really good news, especially if Sneed, again, is on the chopping block in terms of, you just can't retain everyone when you draft this well.
Here, Nate, on that note, this time last year we were saying it seems like they're going to get this done, but it does seem pretty clear to me that this will not be an unknown very long, because if he hits free agency, it's about free agency. And I don't know how much it's worth for the Chiefs to not ever let him hit free agency. Again, the illegal tampering has already started, and the legal tampering will start soon. But I don't know what the timeline is for you. I imagine the Chiefs are going to get a resolution pretty quickly, though, right?
That's what they want. And so the question then becomes okay, what is Clark Hunt willing to authorize in terms of annual salary or roster bonuses, or obviously signing bonus comes into play based on how you structure the contract out, the amount of years. And then I want to remind people too, on the other end, what does it take for Chris Jones to feel like he's been respected the way he wanted, when he was in front of Ronald McDonald House asking for a raise, literally the eve before the season. I'll never forget that. My man went to Ronald McDonald House for a obligated, which he fulfilled, totally respect, obligation that he told them, hey, I'm going to come out, I'm going to get everybody excited for the season, I'm going to hand out Big Macs, I'm going to bring a lot of cheer, a lot of, obviously my personality, like I'm going to do respectable, charitable work. I also am asking Clark Hunt to give me more money.
Which is now only the second funniest timing for a Chiefs press conference in the team's history, surpassed on Wednesday.
Yeah. Yes, I'm trying to say that I made my bed, and now let's keep it moving. Yeah.
All right, good. Great.
Now's the time for us to really draw the line.
Hey, Seth. Nate had a thought, and he decided, no, let's keep it moving. Let's reward that behavior and not denigrate it. Let's really celebrate that choice from Nate. That's really big.
Nate, I've always liked you, and you're a good man and a great hugger.
Thank you. I'm trying to mature. I've been given a lot of hugs. It's been a great time. There's nothing like hugging someone that you haven't seen at 3:30 in the morning.
And that's how you hunt down stories.
To a certain degree, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to blend. It's just like a draft. You got to blend it all together. What do the medicals say? What does the tape say? What does the personality say? Coachability. How does he prepare? You got to bring it all in. By the way, in terms of the draft stuff, I'm going to try to see if there's a way to get to it. But so much of what the Chiefs are looking for is not only how do you prepare from a prospect standpoint, but how much do you really enjoy not just a process, because I think that gets lumped into some other things, but from a draft standpoint, how much do you love preparing to prepare for a certain look, a certain moment, to have that level of advantage that is so slim, because we all know the margins in the NFL are usually slim. So they're trying to get to that degree in terms of their process here at the Combine when they talk to the prospects. I know who the Chiefs have talked to at receiver, guys. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to learn that on another episode. See, I am capable of doing things on a bed that next week might be a little different. Is this how it works? Holy smokes. This is how it works. If you want to know who the Chiefs receivers, if you want to know who the Chiefs talk to from a receiver position at the Combine,
do a $10 super chat right now, and Nate will tell you the first letter of the first name.
You can hit the link, and you might find something out next Tuesday.
Nate just needs to start tweeting prospects in bio.
Yeah. Is all my integrity out the window? Perhaps. Now, back to reclaiming some of it. Does Chris feel like he's being valued and respected and given what he's ultimately been really going after for the last 2 years, which is, I am one of the best players in the NFL that plays defense at one of the most premium positions, and I'm the most versatile out of all these dudes. Aaron Donald cannot do what I can do on the edge. Nick Bosa is maybe more athletic, more gifted, but he's not as clutch and as smart and as experienced as I've been. He's not as impactful as I've been when you actually need the most impactful player on your defense to make actually impactful plays. So does $30 million accomplish that? We'll see. You know, it's gonna be when you get to free agency. Obviously, you're overbuying something because you're outbidding other people. The problem is that he's 30, and teams for the most part are getting smart about being a little bit leery when you're taking a guy out of a system for the first time in his career at that age, asking him to be a great player, a leader, but do it differently for the first time in their careers. And again, elevate your team just as much as it would be a detriment to the team that he's leaving. So this is a great, you know, I think last year, and I think Brett Veach even acknowledged this, last year was about agents and, you know, front office and waiting for this contract to get done so we could sort of use it as a marker or use this contract as a, but that one's an outlier and this one's more in line. But like, what position does he play? All that's got to be resolved now, and it really comes down to Chris Jones and Clark Hunt. Brett Veach and I think Andy Reid and everybody else in the organization has tried to do their best, and based on some of these moves so far, done their best to say, when we actually say you're at the top of our priority, we are demonstrating that in real time to try to convince you that we value you more than anybody else, that we actually have to retain this year because you don't have a contract. And yeah, some team could outbid Clark Hunt if you get to March 11th and you haven't resolved, you know, this deep into negotiations because you've been doing it for, you know, almost a year now.
So the Chiefs are in the wooing phase now. They are, I've got a good analogy for you guys within the confines of a loving marriage. So right now, the Chiefs have suppers over, and they've said, hey, babe, you know what?
Oh, man.
Why don't you let me do the dishes?
Oh.
And, you know, the kids are going to help me out, and we're going to tidy up in the living room a little bit. Why don't you
That is so
grab
sweet.
yourself. I poured you just a little bit of your favorite coffee. Why don't you just go relax out on the deck, watch the sunset, and I'll just take care of the kids.
Are you making your wife drink coffee at like 8 p.m.?
Look, man, we're tired. And so here's, you know, why don't you go read that book you've been meaning to read? Just relax, watch the sunset, and I'll take care of the kids. We'll get this all cleaned up, and you just relax, and you just do you for a little while. You deserve it because of everything that you do to keep this entire house together that I couldn't do without you. Have I told you how much I appreciate you? Because I do.
You are so, not only are you just so sweet, it's just a good reminder to know why I married you in the first place.
Absolutely. And somehow you're more beautiful now than you were the day we said I do. I don't know how you do it. I don't know. But I'm just going to take care of everything, and you just relax.
Are you
and you know
sure?
What? I'll just check.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I mean, I got to ask,
in.
are you sure 4 times just to know that I'm twisting the knife of you doing everything before I say, are you sure? Because like,
I'll handle
you don't
snack
have
time.
to.
You
really?
Know, I'll handle, I know. But
You're
I want
so,
to.
I cannot wait for some us time, because you're just going above and beyond.
I hadn't even thought about that. I'll just check in with you once I've got the kids to bed.
Oh, okay.
But you know, I mean,
okay.
yeah, that might be great. I guess I hadn't really thought that far ahead. But you just go relax.
Okay. We'll do. Tucker, I need another. Tucker, there's no way for me to get off this bed not sexually impressive. Go to break.
Whoa! We don't have another break. We don't get to. What do you mean do another break? We don't have another break. You can't get off a bed non-sexually?
All right, I'm here. Okay, back to professional sports journalists who may now have a second job. Okay. Woo! How was that?
When was the last time you made $40 in 5 minutes, Nate? I'm just saying.
It's a trap, guys. It's a trap. It's alluring. It glitters and it sparkles, and then you touch it, and then they sold me a bill of goods. They sold me a bill of goods.
The super chat history today is Jordan Foote, $2 at the beginning of the show. Keep it on, please. Asking about taking layers off for money. Then Matt Peterson for 10, laying on your bed and kicking your legs like a teenager talking on the phone. And then Andrew saying trick, trick, trick. And then Matt coming back again saying best podcast out there that made his whole darn day. Thank you, Matt. And
Thanks,
then
Matt.
Sam asking about if you're saying you should make your bed today, which is true. And then Aaron Kinney with I need some initials, Nate. I think that's on a wide receiver. And I don't know that you can do that without giving away the game. I don't know if there's a lot of doubled up initials that are going to help right now.
Tuesday, my friend. Tuesday.
All right.
How does, can I share something personal?
For the first time today? Is that what you're insinuating? Can you share something personal? I don't know. Will it violate YouTube's terms of service? Because if not, sure. Renee, I don't know if you noticed. Renee's in the chat now. I actually was just starting to read a little Salvador Dali little mini bookette sort of thing that's in English and Spanish about the hallucinogenic torador. I think I've been meaning to read it for a while. I feel like as good a time as any.
All I'm trying to say is that
if Renee walked in while I was watching this show, I would have felt guilty about it.
You have to switch to a different tab really quick.
No, nothing. No, it's for work. It's for work.
Anytime you try to do something that is out of your forte, you really do gain a greater appreciation. So that's what I want to say. What I have attempted to do is there's a reason they call it professional, regardless if it's football, if it's a comedy, if it involves an A word or starts with an A word. I don't know.
It was A.D. Mitchell. All right, cool.
Yeah. So how about this? One initial is W.
First or last name, either way. That's great.
I can't do that.
No. I think that's fine. I think that's a good way of doing the Thursday tease. Before anybody else takes off any more clothing or gets on any more horizontal objects, the Chiefs did release Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Keep your tie on, Seth. This is a professional podcast. And that's not necessarily surprising, but the Chiefs did do it early to give him a head start on the market, and they clear up that money. So obviously, one receiver we know won't be back this year. I don't know. At some point, it might have made a tiny bit of sense to talk about like a restructure or whatever. I imagine, Nate, this is pretty final though. He's on the open market. Somebody else will pay him a little bit of money, and Godspeed on the next adventure. Is that essentially it?
Yeah, and I'm gonna give credit to Nate Tice because I think he sums up the Marquez Valdez-Scantling era better than anyone. In a weird way, Marquez Valdez-Scantling was Mr. January because anything before doesn't matter. We all remember that he is not only a capable receiver, but a great deep threat, when you're not talking about the Tyreek Hill category of these things. So he was someone who was willing to take on the challenge, go from one great quarterback to another with Aaron Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes. He did it for championship purposes. So when some fans say, well, once you get to free agency, all you care about is the money. I mean, sure, but some guys want to win. And that was always on top of Marquez's mind, even though he wasn't the most consistent player. When it was winning time, the dude made plays in January. So I saw your tweet, Josh, about him planting the flag as like his last act as a player in a Kansas City Chiefs version. It's a hell of a run, Nate Tice would always be like, well, Reggie Jackson was Mr. October, and then Derek Jeter became Mr. November. Yeah, and then Marquez Valdez-Scantling became Mr. January in a different sport for 2 years. We went from one of the greats to one of the greats of a generation to two-time Super Bowl winning champion Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
And key playoff guy. Hey, I'm happy for the redemption tour. It would have been great if his second year had built on the first year and we'd seen more consistency throughout the season, because it actually, funnily enough, had MVS been more consistent during the season, the Chiefs probably win like 3 more games, and it becomes a very different story from what like in terms of everything. But you know what? He played well when it mattered, made legendary catches in 2 straight AFC championships, and he even had a catch to kind of finally balance things out on that last overtime drive, because it really was the most MVS thing ever to have like a play that had Chris Jones with his arms in the air, like, what are you doing? Like, and lose yards and all that, and they went right back to him the next play. They had to do this. This was an obvious move. $12 million is a lot of money, and so I'm going to choose to remember MVS as playoff hero MVS.
Seth, can you stop responding to the most disingenuous people on Twitter during the show, please? When you do it in your regular free time, it's annoying. When you do it during the show, it's infuriating. Why are you policing Tucker's mentions of people who are not watching on a different platform while we're doing this podcast? That's worse than you being in the YouTube comments.
Tucker was being mean to me. I said, ha, 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 and he said, I watched you type this with a straight face.
Yes, because you responded to someone being completely disingenuous whose account is a bleeping dumpster fire, Seth.
He was saying nice things about us. He's complimenting us.
I don't even want to look.
He looks forward to the shenanigans more than the actual news. Which, to be fair, I feel like that's our target audience, Josh. What are you doing?
Hey, man, we got a hell of an episode for you, okay? And by the way, there's legitimate news in this one.
Yes, there is news in it, and it would be great if Seth would just, stick with us here in the show and then do his tweeting with disingenuous people on Twitter later. Tucker was being mean for good reason.
Oh.
MVS really coincides nicely with the offseason lessons I wanted to talk about a few weeks ago, but we haven't talked about the hilarious thing that happened yesterday, which was that as Clark Hunt was at the podium or at the table or whatever here in Kansas City, he was requesting money from the city to do some renovations to Arrowhead that, frankly, I think most people have kind of looked at and with a resounding, It's kind of been the reaction that I've, by and large, seen. You've got a turf field out in the parking lot and heaters up in the top concourse and a lot of stuff about suites at the field level and VIP entrances and everything. I will say, as a
you got a larger video board. The idea of a larger video board. That how large are we talking from one to post surgery, post procedure?
Weird phrasing to use, but I got it. I think renovation probably is, but that's all right.
Well, when you go down to the BBL clinic, it's kind of got a balloon, right? But when the rendering came out, it kind of looked similar. But again, that's just a rendering. That's not the actual thing. You gotta really. This
is what Nate's saying after he's gotten out of bed. This is Nate back at his desk again.
Some of the comments.
You're in a mode, man.
Yeah,
sometimes.
and look.
He's locked in.
When the New York Times says, "What is a BBL?" I think the general public usually clicks.
Oh no, Seth! No, I just can see Seth's face. And I know, but I don't know if Nate knows yet. And if Nate knows what I know that Seth knows, then Nate's gonna have to. He's gonna have to make sure Seth knows.
No, it's okay. I know.
Seth has no idea what you're talking about.
No.
Okay.
Well, it can only mean so many things. Please don't text me. Whatever it is, do not get me in trouble today. Whatever it is, I assume it's like the time that someone asked me when I was starting a Substack if I was also starting an OnlyFans, and I very, very sincerely was like, "Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, who knows what I might do next?" Because I had no idea what that was, and I am proud of that in a goofy way, but a very real way.
Seth, I can acknowledge that it's kind of what I did earlier.
Well,
sure,
but better, more
better.
professional.
Wow, that's impossible to believe, frankly.
As I said.
You can't improve on perfection.
Shout out to the professionals. Some people will make you a drink in Indy and it's not professional quality. Some people will make you a drink in Indy and it's professional quality. Shout out to the professionals.
So this is like the type of people that play football matches with Tyreek Hill, those people?
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, shout out to that news story that's clearly been the top of discussion for 2 days.
So Clark Hunt says Arrowhead's gonna need. Don't make that motion, Seth. Don't lift anything, okay? Clark Hunt wants $800 million total in this renovation process. He said the Hunt family will pay $300 million, which means $500 million from the sales tax extending in Jackson County.
It's also projection, and he also acknowledged usually it goes higher than the projection when you actually start putting things in the actual building. Yeah.
Right. And again, it kind of very, I think as Mick said yesterday, whelming in terms of like what you're actually seeing there, in terms of the sort of philosophical stuff behind it. I'm also very curious on several levels. But as all of that was happening yesterday, like literally at I think it might have been at 10 when the presser started, and about 10:05 is when the NFLPA report cards came out. I had everything in front of me, and then I'm like, here we go. And the Chiefs did not fare well in these NFLPA report cards. I think the estimate I saw was 77% of NFL players responded. They got pretty good response across teams. And the Chiefs had 1 A+ in first place, and then their second highest ranking amongst the rest of the NFL was 18th. I'll rattle through a few of the highlights or lowlights here. Head coach A+, best in football for the new category this year of head coach. 32nd in football, the Chiefs got an F- in ownership, which is specifically about the investment back in the facilities, with some details of that, Nate, that I'll let you pass along if you've got those. Also, 32nd in training staff, 31st in training room, 23rd in weight room, 27th in strength coaches, 27th in team travel, 26th in food and cafeteria, 31st in nutritionist and dietitian, if I didn't mention that one already. There's a lot to unpack here that I think is interesting. Here's a couple of tidbits from this that I want to just read from the report, because, man, I think some people have seen this, and I understand that you want to like defend your team or whatever, but what you are saying when you do that is that billionaire Clark Hunt is right to do like the bare passable minimum, and these spoiled millionaire football players just need to deal with it, when this is below the standard around the rest of the NFL.
Correct.
Two little
I do think a
snippets
lot
here.
of it also, just on a side note, one thing that's worth keeping in mind, a lot of players have started commenting on it, like former players that are now analysts. And one thing they pointed out is you get a lot of guys that like come from an SEC building.
Yeah.
And the facilities are less good in the NFL in a lot of cases. Now, but that's just, it's a contextual thing. I'm sorry, but that was a really interesting thing to me, because people always assume it's done a certain way. But in the NFL, you're not recruiting, right? You're not giving tours of the weight room. You're not you know what I mean? And you're just, that's not really like ever the selling point. I'm curious if this NFLPA survey thing is something of a change for that. If there's an implication, people are going to pay more attention. Mitch Schwartz kind of poo-pooed that idea. But I would assume for different people, different stuff matters. Like some teams have cafeterias open all day, every day, basically. And other teams like the Cincinnati Bengals feed people once a week.
Yeah, and we talked, like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire got a downgrade in locker rooms from LSU to Kansas City, and we talked about that last year when the first report came out. This paragraph is inexcusable to me. All of that being said, this paragraph is completely unacceptable. The players' issue with quality of care is mostly centered around the training room. The players feel that the training room is significantly understaffed, with only 43% of the team responding that they get an adequate amount of one-on-one treatment time. Players feel that the staff is unwilling to provide the necessary treatment to support recovery and performance. For example, players are not allowed to get preventative treatment, soft tissue work, other care, for soreness and day-to-day issues, a regular offering across the NFL.
And by the way,
talking about your physical bodies and you're in playing NFL football. That's inexcusable.
And by the way, Andy Reid ain't about those rest days. We're going to be practicing.
Yeah.
So
I know that this name is going to spark jokes in the comments, but could Kadarius Toney have been on the field earlier, or was there something preventatively pre-training camp that he could have been doing to put him in a better spot? Was Travis Kelce getting the best care possible, or was Travis Kelce getting the best care possible and then somebody else down the depth chart wasn't able to because Travis Kelce was being cared to? That we're talking about the NFL, man. That'd be embarrassing in college.
That is the assumption amongst some people in the league, is that, okay, well, now you're making it, everybody knows where their ranking is kind of on the depth chart, on the roster, the importance, yada, yada, yada. But like, if Patrick Mahomes needs something, training staff gonna give, like, now, I mean, Yeah, train. Okay, what does Pat need? But if you don't have enough trainers, which I think has been a frustration within the training staff, and if your room is out of date compared to the necessary space you would need for the execution of those treatments, or to streamline it, I guess, then yeah, it all leads back to the ownership. And I think the survey is meant for everybody to see how organizationally the owners do have a larger imprint than the common fan knows, or even
Yes.
Even for, now obviously I'm a reporter. You're not there all the time, but you have a much greater sense, and it's obviously our job to delineate that news and that information to you. But guys, I can't look, if Clark Hunt wants to spend his money on the coaching staff, that is his prerogative. If he wants to keep things consistent with the training staff, that is his prerogative. If he wants
Me to pay for his video board.
that is his prerogative.
And none of that means that it's moral or good use of his money or that he's running out of it. The other thing here, Jesse Newell tweeted this out from J.C. Treader, the NFLPA president, about the Chiefs' issues. And he said that the team and ownership did not follow through on its promise to players for a new locker room after the 2022 season. Treader said players were told that the Chiefs played too long in the playoffs last year, so the team didn't have time to fix the locker room. Quote, I think there's some frustration there in the room. We keep winning Super Bowls and nothing's coming back to us. There's no priority on making our lives better. If your issue is that you won't upgrade your facilities, your practice facilities, because your team is being too successful in the playoffs, that is as embarrassing as you could possibly get from this.
It's just a workplace environment for better, not just like for better understanding and a little bit of more of a. I mean, we talked about it all season from like the player standpoint. Like, can you be accountable for one another? Well, this is in a hopes to be accountable for, and help build a more modernized, standardized workplace environment for players, so that they can be at their best, or they can feel like they're being supported as well as possible, given the risk that you playing football, let alone how slim the margin is between winning and losing. Guys, we're an hour and 8 minutes in. Are you ready, Seth?
I don't think I'm going to get to the off-season lessons today.
How would you now
It's your
look,
white whale.
Let's say you got more liquid money than anybody in your neighborhood, and yet every time you're not in the neighborhood, they out here calling you the C word. Josh, how would you feel if you're trying to make long-term plans for sustained business, but in the marketplace, they using that C word to sort of tarnish your reputation, tarnish your name? How would you feel? Does anybody know what word I'm getting at? What the C word is that I've heard continuously?
It would have been really funny if Seth would have been like, yeah, the C word. But I believe in this case, you're looking for cheap.
Yes. People are calling Clark Hunt cheap in public, not in private. Because in private, you can kind of hear that. But now it's out there.
You can find it in the cash spending graphs, but now it's out there.
It's out there. Like, they calling you cheap, dog. Like, it's not a good look. But also, as I wrote in The Athletic yesterday, if you guys vote yes in Jackson County on April 2nd for the stadium and they start building it, that building is to be completed, what, Josh?
2030.
2030, which means the practice facility won't even be addressed until 2031.
Yep. You're the most famous American football franchise in the world. You have the two most famous American football players in the world. One of them's dating the most famous woman in the world who's wearing your Super Bowl merch in Australia. I'd figure it out.
And by the way, there's and I just want to make this clear. I don't the Chiefs sort of pushed back in terms of a how do staff members sort of get this around, because again, can I report it with certainty? But as of right now, talking to members of the staff, it does not appear that the practice facility locker room is going to be renovated between now and the start of next season. We can't say that definitively, but that is the way it's trending.
I think so. I always tend to try to be. I get made fun of for being a fence sitter, and there's a good reason for that, because I'm always trying to see things from two perspectives. And I understand that if you
it's smart to do that though.
Oh, thank you. It's if you go throughout the list of the things that players had issues with, the answer to every single one of them is spend more money, right? And I try to stay out of other people's pocketbooks in a sense that
Correct.
I understand that there's a certain point where you can't just, and being someone who's employed by the government, I know what it looks like when the answer is, sure, we'll just throw more money at it.
We talk about the players' pocketbooks literally every day, though.
Sure, but that's, well, I don't know. I generally tell players that they should get as much money as they can get.
Sure.
And so, like, for me, I think the biggest thing is, I think the stuff that you covered, Josh, the fact, like the bigger, more embarrassing things, I think that should be the focus there, to where if you want to present as a top tier, we are the cutting edge of the NFL, we are the gold standard, then you've got to try to make sure you're doing that across the board, not just in public-facing things. Because I think it's sometimes easy to, because, hey, people will say, well, they're doing the $500 million tax. It'll probably end up being like $400 million in their pocketbook because they're going to do the surplus, and it's always a surplus. $400 million is a lot of money, or $300 million, whole lot of money. Fair enough. But that's like the public-facing stuff, right?
It's also an investment for them.
Right, because then you're going to charge people more, and
for the suites, for the VIP suites at the field level. Who is that good for?
Yep, creating those things that allow you to charge more. So I think on one hand, you can acknowledge that it seems like this stuff is basically exclusively all, hey, drop a little more money here, drop a little more money there, or a lot more money here, a lot more money there. For me, the stuff where it should really matter, like practice facilities, that matters. And if they're saying, well, no, it's very functional, they don't think it's nice enough. I get that, but that stuff does matter. Training staff, though, Clark has shown he's willing to spend a ton of money on coaches.
Correct.
But training staff, to me, falls into that same place where you can get an edge without jumping in front of the salary cap. And so I understand it's a business. I understand all that. I'm always trying to present it in somewhat of a balanced thing. But to me, I think where I get annoyed, and this is where, Josh, I think I can join you in your level of annoyance, is if you're going to make business decisions, presenting it a certain way, public facing, is a little disingenuous. Like this idea of like, no, this is our, big, this is our legacy. This is our, like all these things that you say that get buy-in from fan bases, and then treating it like a business kind of on the back end, that's a little disingenuous. And so to me, the embarrassing part is the stuff that actually relates to, at least potentially, the on-field product. And I do think that's one area where these NFLPA grades, as they are, might come in handy, in terms of otherwise it might be something that never comes out.
Yeah.
And I think a little shame isn't the worst thing in the world. Now, do I think, am I not going to be satisfied until the Chiefs are, an A in every area? No, but there's a big difference.
But if that's achievable, would that not be cool?
It would be, I don't know if it would move the needle much for me, but I do know that F- is a bit of a bummer. So it's like one of those things where you got to figure out, this is, what are the things that are important in a sense of how does it affect the actual functioning? And I do think that matters. And that's where, like, you got to find the line. That's where what Nate said about, being called cheap. It's one thing to be called cheap for stupid reasons. That I couldn't care less about. I imagine Clark Hunt couldn't either. Being called cheap about things that I think might actually move the needle, that's an entirely different thing to me. And that's where being a little more public facing with that stuff, I think that would be helpful in all this, rather than presenting a certain thing. Oh, look at all this stuff we're doing. Don't look over here. Don't look over here. Over here's bad. That's where it gets a little disingenuous. Like can we get like a C average here? Can we at least and not, take Andy out of it, because although I suppose you really can't, because Clark Hunt did fly out there and drag him back here. So I mean,
right? Yeah, I mean, there's again, this is very nuanced stuff, but like a perception isn't always reality. But there's a perception now that he's not considered someone who's willing to make the investment that his peers are. It's also striking to me that the Chiefs practiced for a week in Las Vegas in the Raiders' relatively state-of-the-art facility the week before the Super Bowl, before the biggest game of their lives.
After all of this surveying had happened, just for bookkeeping.
Well, and
correct.
They also
Correct.
went through. It's worth noting that they went through Minnesota this year, and Minnesota's facilities are real nice. You got a lot of new stuff there, and that's where it really is. You've got to figure out that it doesn't have to be this or this, but crap, could you at least come to the middle here? Like that seems pretty reasonable to me, and that's where I do think a little bit of public shaming never hurt anyone in that sense.
Right. And I think the issue that's frustrating for players is like, well, then don't make it's hard to, I was going back with the PA, and I was going back with a few players about like, how does a promise like that get said? And then obviously how does the communication sort of filter down to where it's basically understood that like, you said this and you promised this, and then obviously you didn't follow through. So, for the players, it's, and again, these are the more tenured players, the guys that have been around quite a bit. It's hard to understand, like, well, then why'd you promise us that? Why say something and then not do anything other than a chair? You gave me a chair because that was the quickest of the fixes you could give me when I asked for wholesale changes. And you, by the way, at least from their perspective, they felt that you made a promise to make wholesale changes.
Something else I didn't know till this week, Andrew Brandt tweeted out yesterday, said, putting a $255 million NFL salary cap in perspective, NFL teams receive an annual distribution check for national media sponsorship licensing revenue of roughly $400 million. Thus, before they even turn the lights on, NFL teams have almost $150 million more in revenue than all of their player costs. I just didn't know any of that, and I thought it was interesting, and I'd pass it along. The offseason lessons, we're like 15 minutes over time. I guess next week. I will say before I kick it to Nate to wrap it up, as you may have seen on Twitter, today was my last day at Sports Radio 810 here in Kansas City. So I wrote about it a lot more on Twitter. It's like a 2-screenshot personal news thing. It's really pretentious, but it's not. I don't think it's actually pretentious. It's explaining everything that's going on. It's not pretentious. It's a lot of reading. All right, I know that reading isn't everybody's thing, and it's like 2 entire screenshots. So
but please keep reading on theathletic.com.
But theathletic.com will have more great stuff coming for you this week. And Seth has a new film review up in the Chiefs of the North newsletter. And then ChiefsFan.substack.com. But I'm self-conscious about making you read like 4 paragraphs about my life. So maybe this is definitely more about me projecting. But nothing is going to change here with Only Weird Games, except for me maybe rushing back a little less on some Tuesdays and Thursdays, and hopefully having a little more energy with sort of life in general. I'll continue doing everything over on Arrowhead Report on SI.com. And right now it's just like kind of one big and obviously huge part of my life for almost a decade. One thing kind of going away. It's not taking other stuff with it. And I don't have some like big master plan for some next huge leap. It's just that I've been doing a lot of jobs for a long time, and Renee got a new job, and all of it just kind of worked out for this to be the time after yet another Super Bowl post-game show and all of that. Loved my time there. Very proud of it, and love a whole bunch of the people there very, very much. But Today was my last day, and if this is how you're finding out, now you know. Again, I wrote about it more and, posted some real mushy pictures on socials and everything. So I'm here still. I'll be on Arrowhead Report still. We're not leaving Kansas City or anything like that. In fact, I'm going to just be doing a lot of Chiefs-based stuff going forward, which is my favorite stuff to cover. So it all works out. Unfortunately, I was not able to move Seth in a trade, so it does seem like our salary cap hits are going to stay the same. My in-house report card for this show will be absolutely devastating, but that's for us to figure out when Nate wants to hold a press conference to ask for $500 million to renovate his house.
Crap, that was funny.
That was so good.
By
by the way, yeah, go ahead, Seth.
On a side note, because I know Nate's going to wrap us up, Josh, if it weren't for you doing what you do on 810, I might have never gotten my foot in the door doing radio stuff or realized it's something that I'm humanly capable of doing. I was nervous before the first radio spot I ever did was with you. And that's like because that was before I realized, that, you didn't have any listeners. So I wasn't it was
before I realized you weren't good at talking.
Oh, see, now that's just hurtful. And you
you
had to have at least guessed. You'd read my stuff. It feels like it's on you. And it's just really funny because I remember the first time that we did radio together, we ended up talking about how I met Jazz on the whole, blind double date with my mom and dad extravaganza. And so I would be remiss if I didn't say, and I won't, whatever, because I know you'd hate it, but I really do think the radio world in Kansas City, I'm really happy for you, but I'm a little sad for people that tune into 810 because the radio world is much poorer without you in it, my friend.
I appreciate it. Nate, you want to say something nice about me, or want to just hop back on that bed again?
You want to tell him, or you want to show him, Nate?
No, gosh. I mean,
$20 from Raphael. I guess Nate's gonna have to at least cannonball into that bed. Again, super chats go to bid with the KCSN Foundation, just so people know that.
Thank you, Raphael. We will have to take that deposit and move it to a later date.
Whoa.
So this show and this podcast, this trio, does not exist without Josh Brisco. And
yes,
I just want people to understand that and know that praise the Lord that he is willing to continue working with us. Praise Jesus. No, man, we love you. It was crazy to be not in Kansas City, to be here at the Combine when obviously we knew, but when everybody else found out. And I'm trying to talk to colleagues, but I also want to just scroll Twitter and just see, people give you the appropriate recognition that you deserve. So, when, I've said this before, but when the Athletic came to us in 2019, me and Seth, and said, hey, would you be willing to do a podcast? Guys, you don't want to hear me talk by myself for an hour. And Josh knows that Seth can't host the show. And when we talked to Danielle, she said, well, what about a host from that is not the two of you doofuses? And within, almost instantaneously, we thought of the same person, and that is Josh. So I'm going to miss getting in my rental car at God knows whatever city I'm in, where I just go back and forth between whose podcast came out first, Robert Mays and Nate Tice, or Joshua Brisco dealing with Frank from Overland Park. I mean, when are we going to do the quarterback sneak? He never has to hear that again, guys, even though they're never doing the quarterback sneak. Okay. Not with this guy. So I'll miss that. I'll miss really kind of waking up to Josh's voice, summarizing the game that I just covered in person and being like, well, he may have said that a lot better than I wrote it, and that's not great. So congrats, buddy. Enjoy your time, and shout out to Renee. People don't realize this, but I did the same thing. I left this beloved city, my second city. I left this place in 2017 without a job because Holly progressed in her career, and that is the reason why we moved back to Kansas City with our 2-year-old son at the time, who's now 8. How is that possible? So I love it when couples make the necessary sacrifices, but obviously are supporting one another. And I can't praise you all enough.
I appreciate you, Nate.
I think that was meant for me, Seth. Thanks.
I appreciate his sincerity. I can appreciate Nate.
As a thank you to me, I'd like to talk about off-season lessons learned from last off-season.
Ooh, what are